Hello, everyone. Today is February 4th, 2025, making a video that a bunch of people are going to watch, especially people in Wyoming. We know who you are. So let's talk a little bit about product requirement documents in a particular video, and hopefully you guys can see it and hear it. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Wow. Cardano has not yet deployed a solution that meets the specific criteria of freeze and seize solutions. Started off by Jer, and I'll include a little link there for that particular tweet. Comes from a 2-hour session. So some people are lording this over Twitter, saying, "Ah, you see, Mr. Paulo was right. Oh, he was right." Well, all things there's lies of omission. So the standard for this has been proposed since January 19th, 2023. That's the standard for that, programmable tokens. And all it really requires is implementation. The implementation for this took about 2 weeks, which is what was demoed at the University of Wyoming. So there's a very natural question to ask, why in November of 2024 didn't we have the smart contract ready to go? The people who are involved in this, who are not blockchain native people, I'll forgive them for not understanding, but for people who are come from our industry, uh, shame on them for how they've handled this entire process. So, first and foremost, you have ledgers that either have fixed function, so meaning that everything they can do is basically built into the ledger. And then you kind of have a gray area of pseudo fixed function. And these are things like XRP, for example. NXT was another example of that. And they were very popular back in like 2013 to about 2015. And then you have fully programmable. And the fully programmable assets are like Ethereum, like Cardano, all of these things. Every time you issue an asset on Ethereum, you are not issuing an asset. You have an ERC20 smart contract. So if there's something that Ethereum does not support, you don't say it does not support it. You say, well, I have to write the contract to meet that specification. And you can. And it's the same for Cardano. So when you look at things like SIP 113 and others, there are other standards as well. Basically, they specify some ideas on how to implement real world asset support on the system. So then the question is, well, how do we know how to satisfy your criteria for what you want to do? So every product, what do we do with a product? We write what's called a PRD. And let's look at that together. So a product requirements document is an artifact used in the product development process to communicate what capabilities must be included in a product release to the development and testing teams. And it contains a collection of things: your objectives and goals, the features, the user experience and flows, and the design notes, the system and operational environments, the assumptions, constraints, and dependencies. So, what we were told for a really, really long time by many people involved in this process was that it would be an open process and we would know ahead of time what the product requirements would be. So we had standards, but we had no reason to implement a smart contract in the system that has freeze and seize. And you saw with the demo, University of Wyoming only took about 2 weeks to do that. So if we were told ahead of time that this was going to be a kill condition, a hardline product requirement, a must have, was anybody told, we very simply could have implemented that. And we were told what was going to happen was that a PRD would be published. It would be an open document. Everybody would be able to see it. And there would be a period of time for us to read it and do a demo to demonstrate the capabilities of Cardano. And it would be open for everybody to demonstrate those capabilities to then qualify against a PRD. Because how can you know what freeze and seize actually means? Does freeze and seize mean the government freezes? Does it mean a third party seizes? Does it mean that the seizing is done by private industry? Like who's the freeze and seize agent? And under what circumstances can freeze and seize happen? Does it mean it's like Circle's freeze and seize? Does it mean like a central bank's freeze and seize? You have to define that as a product requirement in your PRD. So how can you say if you're replying in a legally admissible document that you support a feature when it's not even clear what that feature means? And it's beholden to the person asking to write in a product requirements document what is required. It's beholden to that person to say, this is what freeze and seize means to me. This type of actor under these types of circumstances can click a button, and this is what the button looks like, and this is how they click it, and this is the infrastructure they run on. And within this period of time, it should be frozen. We should be able to seize under this, and this is where it goes. Does it go back to the person freezing? Does it go to a third party? We say freeze and seize, freeze and seize. That's like saying the vehicle must have an engine. Okay, what type of engine? A motorcycle engine, a go-kart engine, a semi-truck engine? What are you doing with the vehicle? Is the vehicle carrying a large cargo? Is it an 18-wheeler? Is it a tractor? Is it just a personal transport? What's the fuel efficiency? What's the maintenance cycle? Now you're getting into the product requirements document. So when you're told, well, it's going to be public, and then once we know that, we have standards, and it's a smart contract system, which they all know, then you can write a smart contract to demonstrate that you satisfy those criteria. But instead, here's what they did. They hid the PRD. They didn't say what were going to be kill criteria or not. And then they went ahead and decided to qualify people themselves. And then after the fact, say you have less than 5 days to respond. Do you have this capability that we've just disqualified you for? We say, well, we'd have to spin up an engineering team. We'd have to get people to look at it. We'd have to even understand what you want. Can we do a demo? No, there's no time. There's no window of time. There's no appeals process. You have no opportunity. We're not going to even discuss it. And that's a fair process, Chris Rothfuss, to quote you in the media. That's a fair process, Anthony. Great. And then you're going to read a letter because we have to reply. And yes, by the strict letter of the law, by this process, we didn't have a capability, but in 2 weeks' time we could. So you're going to look at the lawmakers of the state of Wyoming with a straight face and say, it's okay to disqualify vendors by hiding your product requirements document and not letting them know ahead of time what is a requirement, what's not a requirement, by assessing yourself what's real and what's not real and what capability systems have, by implying that Cardano doesn't have a capability and can't have a capability within the time you're launched. Is it launched yet? Have you shipped out RFPs yet? We have this capability now today because now we know what the criteria is. Now we know. You didn't tell us beforehand, but now we know because you judged us on it. And unless you're saying the University of Wyoming's a liar, which is what you said in your tweet. We have on-chain today in a smart contract, freeze and seize. If you told us beforehand, a team would have spun up, we would have implemented the standard right here, and it'd have been done. Maybe, just maybe, that's not a feature you advertise front and center on every website in cryptocurrency. And you damn well fucking know that. Where's the native freeze and seize capabilities of Ethereum? Doesn't have them. It's a smart contract. Where's the native freeze and seize capabilities of the other 6 that you've selected? Outside of Stellar, which, by the way, they inherited from XRP, which you disqualified. You didn't include. So where was the publicly accessible PRD document? So we could all look at it and understand if this is something we could even bid on or not. Did you publish it beforehand? Did you give 30 days of public review, 60 days of public review, 90 days of public review? No, you decided it in a subcommittee meeting not open to the public, then decided to be judge, jury, and executioner. And lo and behold, the technology from the company that you used to work at qualifies. And everybody else's doesn't seem to, including people who have this capability natively, including Algorand, for example, and Hedera Hashgraph, for example, and XRP, for example. And you say it's a fair process. And then what you do is you read a letter from my chief operating officer saying, oh, they admitted to it themselves. They didn't have this capability. Of course, we've given 5 days notice. A smart contract is not yet deployed. But what you were implying to the lawmakers in a dishonest way was that for a long window of time, Cardano will not have this capability, and thus they're not qualified for the first round. And what you omitted is you didn't tell anybody. You didn't tell ICP. You didn't tell XRP. You didn't tell anybody from the Bitcoin ecosystem. You kept it private. You kept it inside the guts. That's what you did. You know, I have seen a lot of bullshit in my life. I really have. But this one just takes the cake. It absolutely takes the cake. You have no fucking clue what you're doing. No fucking clue. You will fail. And you'll be in your smug little smile. And I saw you attend the stablecoin, the University of Wyoming event. Just sit in the back smirking the entire time, texting your friends. But you're going to get murdered by the stablecoin industry. Tether made $13 billion last year. You have a $5.8 million budget. Circle made basically the same. And you're just going to walk in and compete? What's the USP? Are you paying a yield? No. What ecosystems are you deployed on? The ones that need it, that actually could give you stablecoin liquidity? No, the ones that don't need it, the ones your old boss worked at. And every time you want a modification, you got to go to lawmakers. It's going to get more and more difficult. And at the end of the day, you're sitting on a CBDC in Wyoming. And the people are going to know about that because freeze and seize. And on a system like Ethereum with no native privacy, that means you're controlling a product that the government has a panopticon-like transparency on every single thing people do. All those residency requirements and KYC requirements, users of Wyoming stablecoin, you are using a CBDC. That's what your executive directors created for you. You don't like it? Well, they can seize your assets. They made that very clear that that's a hardline requirement. So if you hold Wyoming stablecoin, know that everything you buy is monitored and tracked, and know that at any given time, civil asset forfeiture, they can just seize it. Suspicious transaction. Prove me wrong. Where's the PRD? So under what circumstances are you going to use this freeze and seize capability? What's the oversight mechanism? Who's in charge of that? Seems to me like that's going to be the federal government coming on in. And somehow people are going to say, you know what? That's what I want to sign up for. I'm going to go mint a lot of that. I can trust that with their $5.8 million that's been allocated. We're all going to just get great partnerships in this entire thing. It's just going to work beautifully. It's a waste of taxpayer money, which is why the University of Wyoming, January 31st, wrote a report saying, and more likely than not, it's going to be a loser. It's going to lose money out of the treasury. And as the code is written by people in Singapore and people abroad, people in New York and California, if they even bid on this thing, my God, only 5.8 million to run an entire stablecoin ecosystem. Go figure. People in the Cardano ecosystem have more funding than that. We don't have stablecoins according to you. I don't see how this thing takes off, but it's just insulting as hell. Absolutely insulting that in a proceeding you drag out this thing and just pretend like we don't have a capability. You know damn well that Cardano is a smart contract system. You know damn well that if we were told what the requirements were, we'd simply write a smart contract to satisfy them. You knew that. You withheld those requirements. You didn't let us know what's a kill criteria and what's a nice to have. in the Moscow. You hid that so that your old boss can get it. And then you look at everybody like it's all gonna be successful. You're gonna cost every single taxpayer in the state of Wyoming money after this project fails, and go on to your next job like nothing happened, and leave a smoldering mess behind. And all the laws we got passed over the last 6 years are now vulnerable, because when the Freedom Caucus and other people look at it, they're gonna say, "Hey, maybe crypto's not so good for Wyoming. We lost a lot of money, bad things happen." And I have to go in and talk to a lot of people, fix it. Don't live here, live in New York. It's just rich. It's just so rich. This is not how procurement works, and this is not how a government should operate. This is not how anybody should operate. If you're ever going to do something in life, you publish a product requirements document. You tell people what you want and what success means. You give people due time to read that document, understand what it means, and then go and build a product based upon it. And all of us, every vendor, every person who wants to do something has to take the time to look at this and say, what are you actually asking for? If you ask for $15 million of software development and you only have $200,000 of value for it, obviously no one will bid on that. It's just like concrete, just like construction. Keep it simple. If somebody comes up to my construction company in Gillette, Wyoming, and says, Charles, I want you to pour 2,000 cubic yards of concrete, all flat work. I say, great. Tell me exactly where you're pouring it and what you need from it. Because I have to understand is if it's going to be a profitable pour or not. But here's the thing. Let's say, what we're going to do is we're going to just pre-qualify all of the construction companies in the state of Wyoming based on information on their website. That's what we're going to do to determine who's allowed to bid on this flat work or not. And we won't tell them ahead of time so they can update their website and put more accurate information or do a demo of their capabilities. We're just going to decide that. Oh, lo and behold, the person deciding picks the old concrete company that he worked at as the vendor that's pre-qualified, alongside a few others along the way. You know, what about that other plant, Kroll? They just went and poured 50,000 cubic yards. Yeah, no, we're not going to pick XRP. Sorry. But they literally just did the same job times 10 with real USD. No, we're not going to pick those guys. They don't meet our selection criteria. But the guys I used to work for, they certainly do. And then you go before lawmakers and they question you about, oh, no, no, no. It's a completely objective, open process. Nowhere in the 18 months did we publish a PRD publicly, like your tendering requirement, and let people look at it, do some calculations and say, is this a deal they want to be part of or not? We just kept it secret and did it ourselves. But that's a fair process. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. I hadn't seen that video. Somebody tweeted it at me, and god damn, it made me angry. Just made me angry. I don't have time for a lot of these things, but this is my backyard, and it's just disgusting. There you have it, folks. We have this capability. The RFP still hasn't gone out yet, I believe. Maybe it has. Who knows? Wouldn't surprise me if they've already selected the winners, right? We published videos where these people said it's got to be just Ethereum, right? But they said, no, 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 it's an open process. It's going to be fair. You're watching this too, Senator Rothfuss. You're watching this too. You tell me, you call me, and you tell me how this was fair. You tell me that you really want your brand and reputation on this. You really want to go down with this. Yeah, you tell me. Wyoming CBDC. That's what you've done. Yeah. Ugh. Anyway, to any government people listening who think about how to acquire cryptocurrencies, how to use blockchain, it's pretty simple. You tell people what you want. You invite people to come and have a conversation with you and tell you what they can do, and you put it up on GitHub or some open thing. You let a conversation happen out in the open, and then you create a window of time for people to build demos to demonstrate that they can do what you want. Anybody who builds a demo is then qualified to bid. And what you do is you solicit from all the people who've built demos what they think the costs are going to be. It takes a little longer, but not that much. And what ends up happening is you get a good sense of who's credible and who's not, who works quickly, who doesn't work quickly. You get a good sense of the quality of things, the imagination of things, the creativity of things. This stablecoin could have been an amazing result, could have been an open process, and any ecosystem that wanted a stablecoin like Coinbase with Rosetta, they could implement against the standard and then get native issuance, and it would have broken the back of the Circle cartel that has formed. But instead, it's descended into the very thing it was intended to get rid of. It could have been an amazing thing from USPs. It could have been the first stablecoin issued on Bitcoin. It could have had great privacy features to protect people, so not every transaction they made was stolen from that is publicly available. And yeah, freeze and seize, whose requirement is that? Federal government. So the state of Wyoming's currency that was made as an intention to give the middle finger to the federal government over the whole speedy bank stuff and people not getting bank accounts. We're going to turn control over this whole thing to the federal government. That's what we signed up for. That's what the lawmakers signed up for. That's news to them. They were not told that. But I guess that's a hardline requirement. Freeze and see. We were certainly disqualified for it. I still don't understand what freeze and seize means. Love to explain. When you build a product and you're a government, you have to be open about this. And nobody for the life of me can explain if this is what we were going to do, why didn't we get a better deal as a state? Nobody can explain that to me. Why couldn't the state of Wyoming, if they were going to do this with Circle anyway, just go to Circle and make a deal with them and, and just white label it and say, "Hey, this is what we're going to do. We'll create Wyoming stable token. We'll just white label Circle's infrastructure, have them issue it, make Circle agree to put a few $1 billion of liquidity into it." Circle would have taken that deal in a heartbeat. Get some political cover from the state of Wyoming. Huge coup for them. They make billions of dollars every year. Cost the taxpayers of Wyoming nothing. We could have split the T-bill revenue. Instead, you're going to build from scratch with vendors you know nothing about, who have no connection to the state, a product that is destined to fail because it has no vision or leadership, no market position, no one to negotiate on its behalf, who's been in the industry for a while or cares about it, who's been in the industry for a while. You're going to get that thing out there and you're going to go up against people where your entire annual budget is the rounding error of the people you compete with who don't play fair. And tell me, when companies are abroad and the US government doesn't like them too much, well, the state of Wyoming can't do business with them, but maybe, just maybe, Tether can, amongst others. And what if those people have 80% of the market? How do we compete? What do we do? Will this even be compatible with the stablecoin legislation that's being pushed in Washington? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see what the process goes through. Honestly, what are we doing here? What's the point of this? I care about this not because we lost a deal. We weren't even allowed to bid on a deal. I care about this because I'm part of Wyoming. And it's not okay for my tax money to be wasted. It's not okay for the reputation of the state to be dragged through the dirt. And it's not okay for the state to think it's fine and it's a fair process for people to choose the companies they used to work for and do so through a closed door process. It's not okay. It's not. This is not how we do procurement. If it happens now, what about when Sam Altman comes to town and sells GPT to all of the Wyoming state? No bid contract. Screw everybody else. What happens when Bill Gates comes to town, starts building the entire energy infrastructure, which he's already doing with the molten salt reactor out in the state? What happens when all these other companies come in? Are their former employees now going to be on the commissions? And those commissions will then decide that they're the best candidates? Is that really what we want to broadcast of how business is done in the state of Wyoming? Is that really what we're looking for here? And if you say no, then you have to ask yourself, well, what happened here? Honestly, what happened here? I wasn't going to make any money from this one. The vast majority of people participate weren't going to make money. because there's no money to be made. You disqualified everybody. And every level, this is wrong from an ethics viewpoint, from an optics viewpoint, from a legality viewpoint, class action lawsuit worthy. My God, and it's indefensible at every level. And it violates every principle of good procurement and ethics. And I'm told, well, we got to be very nice. We got to be delicate and diplomatic. And maybe in Cheyenne that works, but I don't live in Cheyenne. I live in Wheatland. And you know what? I got my clinic in Gillette. Where I live and where my clinic's at, we're kind of in the shoot, shovel, and shut up, kick 'em in the teeth part of the state. We don't have any tolerance at all for bullshit. We really don't. Take that to Colorado. Take that to California. Those parts of the state, you shake people's hands, you look them in the face, and they make commitments and promises, and they're honest about intentions. They actually honor what they say they're going to do. People's lives depend on it. That's where Wyoming came from. This is a state built by ranchers where if people didn't show up, people starved to death. If people didn't show up, people froze to death. If people didn't honor their commitments, it was life and death. That's the culture the state comes from. That's who we are in Wyoming. So not going to be nice about it, not going to be diplomatic about it. You know what? When you fight for things that matter, and when people know you have integrity, then they respect you. And there's nothing that has integrity in any of this. There really isn't. The state should not, as a matter of philosophy, build products in the cryptocurrency space. There's no reason for it. And if they wanted to get involved, white label something. Don't build it. You don't pick winners and losers. Second, as a matter of process, you publish your product requirements if you're going to do it, and you have it be open for people to satisfy them. And you let people come to you. Third, you have to make the case to the taxpayers that if you're going to build this, there's some competitive edge in what you've constructed that's actually going to allow it to be successful. If it's a carbon copy of things that have come before, ask yourself this: why didn't the state just build cell phones then? Go compete with the iPhone. Why doesn't the state just build automobiles then and go and compete with Ford? What are we adding to the state's sovereignty, to the benefit of the taxpayers, to anybody? The US federal government is now pro crypto. This bill was passed when it wasn't. So are we going to change the policy of the federal government now? No. And if this stablecoin bill passes the Senate, which it likely will in the Congress, what that translates to is that anybody basically can issue a stablecoin. And it's an artifact of the banking system. Is Wyoming going to be the number one place to do it? I don't know. Are we fighting for speedy banks? Was there any intent to take care of the speedy banks in Wyoming with this bill? Shall endeavor to use a speedy bank, for example? Not really. So we're going to lose that one too. And at the end of the day, what reason does the consumer have to use this? Because the issuer is a state. Okay. Do most of the crypto people who are anti-government particularly care about that? Do they care about any of these things? They care about liquidity. They care about exchange access. They care about marketplaces. So what's our strategy for getting listings? What's our strategy for navigating? What killer dApps are going to integrate this and trade this? These types of things. Did we really think that one through? Is it just field of dreams, build it and they'll come? Huge probability of failure. And as it's failing, how do we bail it out? We have to go back to the legislature and say, trust me, bro, just throw in another $50 million or $100 million. It's all going to work its way out. Yeah, it's going to be great. There you go. And what Wyoming businesses are going to use this? Honestly, the commercial banks are against it. They testified. Any of your construction companies going to use it? Any real estate plays with this? Can I buy gasoline with it? Diesel, I guess. And exactly how is that going to work? Well, it'll be very simple. You'll pay a high transaction fee and go through legacy infrastructure. Oh, but I can just use my credit card and have it be for free. No, yeah, but this is Trust me, bro, this is better. Why? Because everything I buy with it's tracked and it can be frozen at any time. That's our competitive edge. That's how we win. I build products for a living. I've made billions of dollars, $340 billion of value creation across my 15-year career. As you smirk in the background and smugly think you're so fucking smart, you worked at companies that I helped establish and in ecosystems I co-founded. Perhaps, maybe, just maybe, I have a fucking clue about what is required to build things and survive in the cryptocurrency space. As much as people malign Cardano, it's in the top 10. And it will be here in 10 years and in 15 years. And it'll be more valuable then than it is today because of the roots that we've laid. People can disagree with it, but they can't deny it. It is a brutal space. Watched thousands of ecosystems fail. I've watched hundreds of people go to prison. I have watched every scam under the sun, every stupid harebrained idea under the sun fail. And I've seen the people who succeed. And let me tell you right now, the people who lead the cryptocurrency space, they're not lightweights. These guys are killers. They're vicious. And they had to be because they survived against 100 others who tried. And they have dense networks of people. They can pick up the phone and call the president of the United States anytime they want. And they have unfair advantages. They can shut people out of markets. And there's no antitrust or anti-competitive legislation at the moment or action. They can deplatform people from wallets. They can delist people from their exchanges at a moment's notice, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. That is not a fun and easy market, and the people who win are the ones who are tough, and they wake up every single day, and they're smart, and they have great USPs. They have incredible communities who are diehard loyal, and these communities are hardened by bear markets where sometimes they lose 90%, 95%, 98% of their money, and they keep the faith year after year. That's what makes the leaders in this industry. That's what makes these products successful. So before a person wants to come in, to all people listening, that is your requirement for success. That's who you have to be to outcompete the people who are already there, who, by the way, now have a 10-year head start, tens of billions of dollars, hundreds of markets that they're on. How the fuck do you break those people? Either you do new things that have been never done before, or you have to be so good at business and so persuasive, so agile, so dynamic. It's like saying, I'm going to start an oil company and go put ExxonMobil out of business. Good luck. I'm going to start a defense contractor and go put Raytheon and Northrop Grumman out of business. Guess you could. Every now and then you get a Palmer Lucky. How about the rest? I'm going to start a software company. I'm going to go take Microsoft down. I'm going to start a social network. I'm going to go take Facebook down. Every now and then someone succeeds. But really, do you think you're going to win that 1,000 times? You'll lose maybe when you do. It's always the exception, the rule, not the rule. That's why this is a bad idea, absolute bad idea, and it should not be done. And at the end of the day, even if we succeed, what have we achieved? To put a lot of money into something that every single day requests are going to come in from the DOJ to freeze accounts because one of those coins ended up in the hands of a terrorist entity. Somebody working in Cheyenne who cleans hotel rooms sends that dollar coin to their family in Mexico, and then that person in Mexico uses it to buy a beer, and the bar that he bought it from works with the cartel. And now you got to go freeze that account. Somebody is a tourist, and let's say you're successful and they got this stable coin, and then they take it back to Vietnam, and then they go and buy something with it, and the person that gets it over there is part of some criminal organization. One after another comes in, subpoena this, subpoena that, this thing. Okay. And then what happens when the IRS shows up and says, we don't think Billy over there is paying his taxes or Jimmy over there is paying his taxes? Where we now need you to turn over the entire transaction history. Here you go. We got a little dashboard for you. That's what the state of Wyoming's doing then, I guess. That's what we signed up for. That's our lived experience. Have we really lived the dream of decentralization? Have we really kept that cowboy state? We love gold and silver and have a handshake and own your own assets, be your own bank mentality. Is that what cryptocurrencies were really designed for? To be a simulacra of the banking system, just less accessibility and higher fees? Really? That's what we're going to be? That's who we are? Oh, and by the way, now stablecoin legislation is coming out on the federal level. We're going to have 400, 500 competitors, ton of people all across the United States. Market will be flooded with all of them. You know what happens when you have 500 choices? You go with the reliable one. And that's Circle. And that's Tether. Tether, oh, they're scary. Oh no, they're bad guys. With the Tether guys, they're going to be regulated out of existence. The minute that law passes, they're sitting on a mountain of cash. You know what a get a jail free card is for them to go buy real USD or buy a bank. When you got 20, $30 billion of cash laying around from all your profits and you make $13 billion a year, you think you're going to pack up shop because a law's passed? No, you buy somebody. Then suddenly you're in compliance, like when Polynex got bought. There you go. Now they got all the licenses. Congratulations. And suddenly a $130 billion coin has legitimately entered the marketplace. They have all the liquidity. That's how that works. Just being real with you guys, just really being real with you. So if you're going to come to the market, you got to think of new things. Maybe you add some privacy. I could have been that with Midnight. Maybe you enter a new market like Bitcoin, for example, that no one's touched besides Tether now. Or maybe you offer the yield to people. Maybe there's a path to do that. They go through KYC, and if they're a resident of the state of Wyoming, they can get the yield. And it doesn't apply because it's not federal securities laws, right? But then at least there's a reason to have that because it's like having a bank account pays 4%. Okay, now we're thinking, we're doing something. As a demo, we could have provided all that. We could have said, well, here are paths and things that maybe make this model interesting. Hard to get over the freeze and seas, but it's there. It's a smart contract, you know, but it's just a wasted opportunity into the ash bin of everything. And now, you got to kill it as a state and go and get it defunded and start over and do this whole thing. And it just, it just sucks because it's a waste of everybody's time. It was 18 months of wasted time. It was a waste of the governor's time who vetoed it the first time because he knew it was going to be bad. It's a waste of the state's time. It's a waste of the media's time. It's the waste of the whole RFP process. You're going to go through this whole rigmarole. It's like somebody 2 days before Trump takes office, acting on an executive order of Biden that Trump is going to overturn. It's like the people doing it know what's going to happen, but they still have to go through the motions because that's the requirement. So that's where we're at. That's what's going to happen. Waste of my time, waste of all these people. But what can we do? Honestly speaking, this is why you don't compete with private industry. This is why you don't pass vindictive laws that have no purpose. And this is why you get processes that can be corrupted out in the open and transparent so everybody can see them. That's why you write product requirements documents so you can talk about it and say, is this really a good idea or not? Do we really want to do this? Or do we think that this is going to be a problem? You will need more money. You will not make profit off of what's put in. You go back to legislator, you think it's going to be easier the second time? Probably not. Oh, absolutely not. Not after this. So where does your second round of funding come from? The profits? Not going to be any. A listing fee on a tier one exchange costs more than the entire annual budget. Ugh, what a waste. But anyway, that is what it is. For everybody else listening, the state of Wyoming is a wonderful place, and the people in Wyoming are the best. That's why I chose to have it as my home. When you're a billionaire, you can live anywhere in the world, and you don't make any compromises. I had to make a decision in 2021. I grew up in Hawaii. I was born on the island of Maui, and I grew up in this little town called Makua. 15 minutes from where I was born, a ranch went up for sale in Hawaii around the same time that a ranch went up for sale in Wheatland, Wyoming. And I had to make a decision. Do I go buy the Piholo Ranch, which was actually the same price as the ranch Twin Pine that I bought? 800 acres, 15 minutes from where I grew up. Perfect weather every single day. Already had cattle on the ranch. 200 acres of jungle, 600 acres of plains. It was an idyllic paradise. And then I had that ranch there in Twin Pine. So why did I choose Wyoming, where the winters can get down to -40 and the winds can get up to 100 miles an hour? Sometimes they have to shut down the highways because it blows so hard, and go live in a place that has 3,500 people, and it's so remote. Because there's no place in the world like Wyoming for the people. They're special. They're honest people. They're high integrity people. They're trusting people. They work incredibly hard. And I know that because I have a construction company. And in that company, I see these guys show up to work and these gals show up to work in the worst possible conditions and do their job. The people that drill the oil, they see the same thing. There is no place I've ever been that has people as special as the people of Wyoming. So I get a little protective at times. I do not want the corruption, the nepotism, and the bullshit of my industry to leak into Wyoming and harm the people of Wyoming. They don't deserve that. They absolutely don't deserve that. They work too hard and they're too good for this craziness to be inflicted upon them. And that's why I fight. That's why I get so passionate about this, why I get so angry about this. That's why I think, gosh, this is a problem. You know, stablecoin stuff on Cardano, that's go to the treasury, get them to put some money into USDM, put a little equity into USDM, build up some infrastructure, do atomic cross-chain swaps with stuff natively issued on other things. It's easy to solve. And in a year or two, it's resolved, just like the old Coinbase listing when everybody complained about that. It's not a problem at all for Cardano. It's more of a philosophical thing. Do the people of Wyoming have good government? Do the people of Wyoming have honest government? And is the tax money of the people of Wyoming being spent wisely or not? Every single dollar that the state has comes as a result of somebody who had to go to work in a blizzard, somebody who had to brave roads at 1 o'clock in the morning during a windstorm with almost no visibility and a whiteout, nearly got hit by a semi truck, somebody working cattle in the worst possible conditions, trying to figure out how to pay for hay because the price is too high, thinking, God, am I actually going to make my bills? Every dollar comes from one of those people. It's not okay to package it up and hand it to some of the wealthiest places in the world so that they can just put it in the corner, not even think about it, buy another artwork. It's not okay, which is why we're going to bid $1 for it if we were even allowed to, but we're not by design. That's why I get passionate about it. And that's why we're going to fight the fight. And that's why I said, I don't care if it takes 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. I don't care if I'm 70 years old. I will still fight this fight. I really will. And the nice part about Wyoming also is there are only 500,000 people. It's real easy to talk to every single person there. And mass media is very effective in Wyoming. So is Facebook, believe it or not. We learned a lot of that when we acquired 11,000 patients up in Gillette. Boy, the people of Wyoming are going to be really unhappy when they find out that their state's building a CBDC in name only. They're going to be really unhappy about that. So that's where we are. That's where we're going. Today, February 4th, 2025. And when we get to the other side of it, brighter days ahead. And I'd encourage people to look at Wyoming to incorporate their business. I encourage people to build businesses in Wyoming. I encourage people to take a chance in Wyoming. What has happened here is not a representative sample. It's why I get so passionate about it. They're some of the nicest, best people in the world. And if you build there, you won't regret it. And the other thing is, you got a lot of people like me. Some of them don't have the same resources, but hell, they love the fight. And when bad stuff happens, they pick up a shovel, they get it done. So if you build there, they'll take care of you. And a lot of friends will take care of you. After this tragedy happened, So many people from the state called me and said, "What can we do to help?" And I said, "Just wait a little bit. Let me set up some things. I got to figure out what route to take." But now they'll be activated and they'll be engaged, and we'll get this done county by county and do all these things, and we'll move it forward. And I think future laws will be much wiser, and that's why we're so focused on changing the fundamental procurement of the state. You get a mulligan, but moving forward, we got to do things a little differently. So thank you all for listening. See you next.